unicorn, a banana, and a serial killer walk into a bar. Welcome to episode 28 of the Inside Real Estate Podcast. Today we have Sam Walls and Manny Miniature. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So, guys, thanks for coming on. One of the reasons I wanted to have you guys on is because you're both, how old are you?
I'm 19.
20.
20, cool. So you guys are some of the youngest out there to be in real estate, but you're also kind of kicking some ass. And I think right now, where we are in the market, the way things are today, is that a lot of the agents, the more established agents that have been around a long time, things that they've been doing in the previous years are not working right now. And I think to be successful in this market, they need to get back to some basics, a little more of the hustling stuff. And I think the agents that are willing to put in that work right now are the ones that are finding success. So they're coming for you. So pay attention to what these guys are doing. So start off a little bit, and Manny, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How'd you get into real estate?
Yeah, sure. So ever since I graduated high school, I've always had some interest in real estate, and I pushed off getting my license for some reason, but out of high school, I worked a full-time job in the trades and realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do long-term. So during my lunch breaks every day, I was taking an online self-paced course. And eventually I took a day off to go take my test. And, then I found Keller Williams Brokerage, where I'm at now in Collegeville. So it took a while, and, I would do open houses on the weekends sometimes. And eventually, about 4 months ago, I made the transition to go full time, and I've just been hitting the ground running ever since.
Cool. Sam, how about you?
Yeah, I actually went to a year of college first. I went to the University of Pittsburgh. We're in Chester County right now, so that's 4.5 hours away. Yeah. While at school, I kind of determined, though, that the path I was on, I just didn't like it. I wanted to get my real estate license. So during school, during finals week, I actually passed my test. And then when I got back from school around June, I began. And for 5 months now, I've just been at it full time, pretty much.
So only 5 months?
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing this now?
Just over a year.
Just over a year. Cool. What are you guys, what's your strategy right now as far as, let's start off with this. So what's your deal count right now? Could be a combination of rentals, listings, buyers. What's your deal count?
Yeah, so closed transactions, I have 5 currently.
Okay.
And I have 2 active listings and a few more that should be coming up soon.
Awesome. And I want to get into that more because of how you're going about getting those listings. And how about you?
Yeah, so I actually have 4 under contract right now. It's about to be 6.
Okay.
I'm just kind of waiting on a few things. I have the documents sent over. I just need it signed. So you know how that goes sometimes.
Yeah.
But then I also closed 1 rental in the summer, and that's really been it so far.
So okay, cool. So you guys are about pretty much on pace. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Sam, what are you doing to go get business right now?
A lot. So obviously I joined a team. But at the beginning, I didn't really have anything. I was just hosting multiple open houses every single weekend. I started doing social media a lot. I know you've seen that. I try to stay pretty consistent with that. And then there was a lady at my last office, which was KW. I'm at VRA Realty now. But she saw me working hard, and she wanted to give me some of her Zillow leads. So I started hitting those, and I've been able to get a few of those under contract now. And I also just joined the team, so I've been getting leads from there as well.
Okay, cool. How about you?
Yeah, so when I started out, and still something I'm doing, is at least 1 to 2 open houses every weekend. That's kind of a consistent thing, just to have buyers come to you, and it seems to be working pretty well. But the main thing I'm doing during the week is for sale by owners. So I'll contact the for sale by owners, keep in touch with them, and if they do happen to fail to sell their house on their own, I try to be that backup resource for them.
Okay, so let's dive in on the FSBOs a little bit. So I don't know if you guys know, I used to have my license back when everything tanked in 07, 08, back around then, and I actually had a decent amount of success with FSBOs back then too. How are you approaching them and finding them and all that type of thing?
Yeah, so I try not to be very abrupt, because what I find is that FSBOs, along with other sources like expireds and things like that, are typically very aggressive towards agents. So you want to not be very direct towards them. You kind of want to act like you're not going for the intention. You are not misleading them per se, but first time I give them a ring, I'm not saying, hey, I want to list your house. I see that it's on Zillow or whatever. You want to ask if you can go look at the house, ask questions about it, because a house someone has, it's one of their biggest assets. So they have attachment to it. So you want to kind of build that relationship first, and you kind of want to let them fail their way to realizing they need an agent to sell the house. So over time, you'll see, call this week, yeah, we're getting a lot of interest. Next week, a little bit less interest. Next week, nobody came to my open house. I don't know why. And then they decide to list with an agent.
Okay. So when you have, like when you're starting off that conversation, like what are you doing to like break that ice and get their guard to come down?
Yeah. So first thing, let's say I'm calling you. Hey, Brian, I saw your house at 123 Main Street for sale on Zillow. As I understand you're selling it privately, right? And obviously you'll say yes. And I'll just be like, cool. My name is Manny, by the way. I'm with Keller Williams in Collegeville. I am a realtor, but I'm not calling to list your house for sale. I'm sure you're getting barraged with calls all day. I just want to see if I can go get a showing for it. And a lot of times they'll be like, well, why are you looking at the house if you're not trying to list it? And I'll be like, well, typically what I do is I just try to keep myself updated on the market. That way I know what is out there, even if it's listed with an agent or not, because a lot of times my clients won't see properties that are listed privately. And that'll get them thinking, oh, even though I'm listing it by myself and Zillow has it on there, people aren't still seeing it. So that'll put a little inkling in their back of their mind, wait, maybe my advertising isn't enough.
So you're coming from the angle of, hey, I'm just trying to, keep up to date with the market, all that type of thing. You get in there and then you're finding that they're getting curious, asking questions, things like that. And then you have the opportunity to build that rapport, and then you're just keeping in touch with them until they get to that point where you said they kind of fail their way to wanting to work with an agent.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
How much time are you spending on, are there a lot of them out there? Like, is it enough to keep you busy going after them?
There's tons of them, yeah. So realistically, I couldn't reach all of them myself if I wanted to, strictly because of driving time. Unfortunately, a lot of them aren't right down the street from me. They're, driving to Philly from my office or driving somewhere else. So I do try to hit, a few a week to just get out there and get the face-to-face contact. But yeah, there's actually a lot more for sale by owners than most people think.
Cool. Sam, with the open houses, what's your approach? Are you just sitting in there and hoping somebody says, hey, I want to buy or sell a house? Or like, what are you doing at the open house?
Well, at the beginning, it was pretty brutal. And I'd say one of the most pivotal moments for me was actually not what I was doing at the open houses, but actually picking the open houses that I was doing. So before it was kind of like agents were last minute, hey, can you host this open house? I don't really want to host it. I was like, sure, why not? But what I realized is it wasn't getting enough marketing time out on platforms such as Zillow, Realtor.com. So I kind of transitioned. It was like, okay, I only want open houses that recently came on the market or did a price reduction or have been on the MLS for, like, I want to see a reason for someone going to that open house, not that it was posted yesterday that they're doing an open house and they need some agent to host it. I want it to have time on the MLS as an open house, and I want there to be a reason, like a price reduction or a new listing, something that hasn't really been seen yet by the market, that would encourage people to come out and view the house.
Cool. So you actually have a strategy behind how the open houses that you're sitting. That's cool. So like once you're there and people are coming through the door, what are you doing to communicate with those people?
It's actually pretty simple. I mean, first of all, I always like to see where they're at in the process. Are you a neighbor or are you just shopping around? If they're a neighbor, they're being nosy, they might be interested in selling their house. If they're shopping around, that's someone who's actually I would say a pretty warm lead. And then we got to figure out if they're represented or not.
Okay.
So I just talk through conversation, and it's about trying to solve the problem that they're currently at. It's like, okay, maybe I can connect them with a lender. Do you know how much buying power you want to put into investing in your first home or onto the next home? It's like, do you need to sell your current home before purchasing your next home? All these questions kind of come out through conversation, and you're able to really help them understand where their next steps are in the process, and there's value in that.
Cool. What challenges do you find you're facing as a newer agent?
So there's definitely a few. For example, I had a call yesterday, and a guy that I was keeping in touch with for 4 months met him at an open house at early summertime, and we were in touch for a few weeks and then ghosted me after that. So I had him set up on a search. I could see that he was viewing it at least 1 to 2 times every week, so I knew he was still in the market. And I had just gotten a call back from him yesterday while I was eating, and he asked me a few questions about, my experience and everything. And I was, pretty honest with him. Like, obviously, I haven't been in the business for 20 years. I don't know everything. But, if there's something I don't know, that I have people in my office that can help me out. So sometimes people questioning my experience, and he also questioned my negotiating skills, which I thought was an interesting question because I've never gotten that before. Okay. But another listing I had, I've overcome those objections, but people still do question because I still have, a beardless face and everything. So
yeah. You got to work on that.
Yeah.
Experience the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So how are you overcoming it?
Just show them that you're serious and hardworking. I mean, I'm 24/7 with all my clients. They know that. If they shoot me a text, if they give me a call, I respond within a few minutes every single time. They know that I'm always there, and even if I don't know the answer right away, they know that I'm working on getting it for them.
Okay. You guys sound extremely professional for the short period of time that you're in here. I know when I was getting started, I had some of the same issues, and I found that even if I knew the right answer, it was my delivery, that I didn't have enough experience to deliver it as confidently as I would have liked to. And I found that as time went on and I was more confident in answering their questions, I wasn't getting those questions. They weren't even asking how long I've been in the business because I sounded like I knew what I was doing and I've been doing it for a while. So with that said, are you getting this all the time? All these questions all the time, or just with some of them?
So some people think it's rude to kind of ask your age. So I don't always kind of get that question, but they try to ask questions around that to try to gauge where I'm at. Yeah. For example, the other day, and this was kind of, I slipped up because they told me that their son went to the Downingtown STEM Academy. And I was like, oh yeah, I went there too. And they're like, oh really, when did you graduate? And I was like, oh, yeah, 2023. Yeah. And they're like, oh, so last year. I was like, yep, you got it.
But do you find the fact that you guys are out there hustling at your age, is that working in your favor just as much as it maybe isn't? Like, do you find people are, showing you respect, like, man, these are go-getters? Are you finding that to work in your favor?
I've actually had one specific instance. The gentleman that called me back after not talking to me for 4 months yesterday, when he had texted me, we were supposed to talk one day and just talk about what he was looking for in a home. And he replied to my voicemail by text and said, hey, I'm on vacation right now. I'm going to be back this date, so I can talk to you then. But, from one business owner to another, I respect your hustle. You're working hard and everything. So I think that's kind of the reason that he decided to keep in touch with me instead of blocking me or disregarding me, because he saw that I was serious about what I was doing and I was actually hardworking and, out there to get it.
Okay.
I've certainly seen that. It's the people who have been in your shoes before where they kind of get it. They understand the hustle, and you're younger. They get it, and they kind of want to give you a chance.
Yeah. Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself going to be in the next 5 years?
I personally want to have at least a $2.5 million real estate portfolio, and I want to be making over $250,000 a year.
In the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Cool. How about you? Where do you see yourself being in the next 5 years?
So last year in Bold class, one thing our instructor said all the time was you can be anywhere you want in 5 years. So my vision for myself is, okay, if I'm in real estate, I don't want to be working for someone. That's the point of me doing this. So in 5 years, I'd like to have my own team. I don't know the size of it yet, but at least my own team where I have an assistant, agents that are doing either buy or listing side deals with me. That way I can run things and actually start building a business rather than being a solo agent that sells houses by myself.
Yeah, I guess the correct answer is still in real estate. Playing the long game. Yeah. It's not about winning it, it's about staying in the game.
So you definitely see a team in your future.
Yes.
What about you? Team, or are you going to run it solo?
I don't know. I'm on a pretty amazing team right now.
Mm-hmm.
Within the first, it's been a week and a half, I've gotten 2 deals under contract.
Cool.
One of them came from the team lead, just got it under contract right away. It's been pretty amazing. And, I joined, I'll say, the Rob Lawrence team because there was a skill set I wanted to acquire. I wanted to work with investors and I wanted to purchase my own investment properties. And I knew that if I joined forces with Rob and his team and Zach, I know you've had both of them on the podcast, that I could easily learn, or I could learn that skill set.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I see myself in 5 years, if I'll leave the team, if I'll switch more onto the investment side of real estate.
But definitely in real estate.
Definitely in real estate.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, so in real estate, and you guys are gonna, I'm sure you've seen some of it already, but there's always some sort of shit show going on. So, Sam, why don't you start? Tell me about something nutty that's gone on through your deals or just showings or whatever it is. Give us a little story.
Yeah, I'll have one. Yeah, I do have a good one that happened about 3 weeks ago, I'd say. I was doing an open house in Lancaster, like middle of nowhere, pretty much. Like Lancaster's great, but like a farm fields all around me, just open house. I'm like, I kind of got put on at the last minute, and it wasn't like, I was like, I probably won't get any leads from this. I'm just doing this as a favor for another agent. And the last party that walked in was actually neighbors, and we got off, had a great conversation. Turns out the guy is a big tech founder, and he owns a ton of real estate in the Carolinas, which kind of just got wiped out by a hurricane. But the point is, he has a lot of money in real estate. And he invited me over after the open house. After he said I look like I'm from Miami Vice. We had a great conversation. It's pretty awesome. So I took him up on the offer. I could tell there was something like, it's like this guy, he would be a great client if I could get him. So I go to his house after the open house. He's like, oh yeah, come on in. There's airplane wings all over his yard. So he has a private jet, and I'm like learning more about this guy. He's opening a restaurant. He owns all these businesses. Yeah. I go in, and shorter distance than we are from each other right now. We're just talking. He's showing me these properties that he wants to buy, but they're not on the market. So I'm cold calling these owners right next to him.
Right in front of him.
Yeah. And then the funniest thing too, there's a Glock like right on the center of the table, and I was just like, I walked in, I was like, if he wanted to kill me, he would have already done it. So I was like, all right.
Just laying there.
Yeah. And then we actually, we did do a showing on, I found him another property. We did a showing on that one. And one of the owners that I cold call actually were interested in selling the property. So he's going to get back to me today, actually, on if he's going to end up purchasing it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never know how it's going to go. Huh?
Yeah.
How about you?
I've had quite a wild ride since I started. So it was actually the first day I ever did showings for a client. I had to call off work that day because he could only do it in the morning. So I drove like an hour and a half to go look at places. And the first house we went to look at that day, it was a multi-unit house, and I knocked on the wrong door, and some lady answered the door with a machete. What? And she was like, "What are you doing at my house?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, like, I didn't think I was that threatening. I'm wearing like a threaded vest right now."
So you weren't wearing the banana?
No, I was not, unfortunately. She might have not had the machete if I was wearing that. But yeah, so things like that. Definitely some things in deals. Like, for example, one client I had, in order to go into underwriting, she needed to provide an ID. And she lived in Philly her entire life and always took public transportation, so she never had a driver's license. But we were like, okay, just need a photo ID or something. Apparently never had that either. So she had to go to the DMV and get that, but you need some other like social security docs and birth certificate and stuff. Apparently her house was broken into and all those were stolen. So it's like, there's never a seamless transaction, I feel like, when you're dealing with real estate. So there's always something that pops up that
always
just goes crazy.
Yeah, so. it's either the people, the house, the agents. There's always something for sure. So a Glock and a machete. Wow.
Real estate will take you some crazy places.
Yeah, I had this deal that I did. This guy was looking to, so he was living in a trailer park. He had like a double wide, and he was looking to sell that and buy something else. So I went to meet him at his house to check that out, and I said, we started having the conversation about like how much you're looking to, what's your price range, like all that type of stuff. And he said, he's like, well, how much money, it got into like, how much money do you have? He's like, oh, I have about, $60,000 or something like that. And I said, well, can you, we're going to need to see proof of funds. However that conversation went, and he's like, well, it's in my mattress. And I'm like, I thought he was joking. No. He had stacks of cash in his mattress. And it's like, yeah, it's always funny. You'll always see that type of stuff.
Let's see those tax returns after.
Yeah, right? All right, so what are you doing to educate yourselves right now? You know, being that you're new, like what are some things that you're studying or you know, people you're learning from? What are some things that you're doing? So you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was definitely a big reason why I joined the current team. I started out as an individual agent for most of my career so far. But even then, I never missed a day, except for like 1 week on vacation. Never missed a day besides that. I was in the office every single day. And I was just surrounding myself with people who were already crushing it in the industry. You know, some of the top performers usually come into the office, they're doing paperwork, they're having meeting with clients, etc. And I met with a ton of them, and I would just ask them questions, I would get them coffee. That was it. I was doing a ton of networking. And then I decided to join the team. Again, it's all about accelerating the learning curve and never missing a day. And there were days where I got lucky, and I just never missed a lucky day.
That's awesome. Cool. How about you?
Yeah, so similar things to that. I'm in the office most days, and I've actually had a few agents reach out to me and ask if I've had any mentors or anything because they wanted me to shadow them to learn because they felt that it was good to learn from an experienced agent and see how they operate. So that was one way I've done things. My office hosts a lot of classes too, so I try to attend those if I think it's going to be informative to what I'm doing. Besides that, just a little bit of like self-help and learning and stuff. I like to read a lot, whether it's real estate related or not. Like, for example, I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie right now.
Okay,
so
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good book, just how to operate with people and, you know, read responses from them, which is very vital in our industry.
Cool. Now you're at KW, so you have things like Bold and stuff over there. So I went through Bold. How are you finding that's working out?
Yeah, so I mean, when I did Bold, I literally used every single vacation day I had to take it because I was still working full time. So unfortunately, I don't think I applied it as much as I would have now because I wouldn't say no time because that's an excuse and they'll yell at me for that. But I didn't apply it so much because I wasn't focused on real estate at that time. So I was very involved in it when I did it. I was the youngest person in the whole class I did, and I was the team leader for my group and everything. So I just kind of wanted to throw myself out there and put myself in an uncomfortable situation so I could get the most out of it.
It was a little uncomfortable when I started it. Yeah, for sure. How are you guys? So a lot of people are, agents will always say that their network is a huge aspect of their success. So the people that they know around, like the accompanying pieces, like lenders, all that type of thing, and then also agents, you know, relationships and stuff. So what are you doing to build that network right now?
Take people out to coffee all the time. Just ask them questions. Manny, I'm sure you discovered this too. They respect the hustle that you're young, like a lot of other people. And the thing I hear most is, "Oh, I wish I would have gotten started at your age." I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm doing it. And I love it. So, yeah, I mean, I would just offer to take people out. I mean, the way I got started in real estate, I asked another kid who was absolutely crushing it. He was my age when I was in college, and I said, "Hey, can I Venmo you $5 for a coffee, and can we meet on Zoom? And can I just ask you questions about it?" And then a month later, I joined KW.
Okay.
And that's how I got started.
Cool. What are you doing?
Yeah, so one of the first things I remember doing when I started at my office is I knew absolutely nobody, and my office is huge. There's like almost 300 agents there, so it's very difficult to get to learn who everyone is. So one of the things I did is we have a lot of in-house lenders, insurance companies, title companies, all that stuff. So what I did is at first I figured, well, the people I'm going to be working with most is probably the mortgage lenders if I'm doing buy side in the start. So I invited each mortgage lender that was in-house at our company to have a meeting, whether they wanted to go out or just at the office or something, and just talk to them and learn about the process and how I can make it easier for them.
Okay.
It's fun. Let lenders take you out to coffee and to a ball game, you know? Like, have fun with them.
There's definitely, a lot of lenders can be actually a big helpful piece because a lot of them, if you find the right ones, they're willing to invest in the relationship.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
like, you know, supporting dollars throwing events, things like that. So, I mean, you know, they can be a huge piece. But you have to find the ones that are not just looking. I never really liked working with the in-house lenders as much because they were like comfortable, complacent. They knew they had the business that came from the office, and they never seemed to want to go the extra mile. And I can't say that that's accurate for all of them, but that was my experience. Are you, excuse me, is your go-to, like you have 1, 2, 3 go-to lenders? What's your situation right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I have lenders at CMG, Vantage Point. We have in-house lenders here, and they all offer different products. So, when I get the client, I discover it's like, okay, what lender is going to be able to help them out the most? And then I just introduce them via text, and we get started. And using the lender also is a great way to capture the lead as well. Because, they get that conversation started, and then when they get that pre-approval letter or when they request documents, you're added to that email, and you're working as a team.
Yeah, for sure. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely have a few that are my go-tos, especially in the beginning. The one is an in-house lender just because it's very simple for me and he has a lot of experience. Sure. And he's also been able to help me out. And, some of these lenders, if you build a good relationship with them, they'll boost you up too. They'll be like, oh, it's a great choice working with Manny. He's a really good guy. He's going to help you guys out. So they definitely got your back if you build the right relationships with them. It's actually funny because the one lender who I use most often right now, he initially first asked me out to a restaurant. Kind of sounds like a date, but he asked me out there just to build the connection first. And he invited me to a bar. I didn't realize it was at first. And, he was like, oh, you want to be at the bar or a table or whatever? I was like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Can't drink anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, you can get whatever drinks you want. And I think I just got water or tea or something. He was like, you don't want a beer or something? I was like, oh, I'm not even 21. So he didn't realize at first, but yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
One of my lender and I actually snuck into Xfinity Live the other night because I wasn't. What do you have to? You have to be like 21 to get in there.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
They stopped me at the gate, so we just went around and just climbed over the gate. It was like done.
It's Philly.
Yeah,
we'll get over it. All right. So, what do you think, Manny? What do you think it gives you an edge over other agents right now, or maybe something that is maybe it isn't 100% there yet, but you think is going to be your edge?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's working for me right now, which he also mentioned as well, is replying immediately. So I've heard secondhand from my broker who had to talk with some of my clients or other people that my clients have made comments that I am like the quickest replier. Like the phone rings once and I already answer it, or I reply back to their text within 5 minutes or something. So I think that's very helpful. I know the real estate industry, hearing from my broker, used to not be like that. If you replied within 3 hours, that was fast. Now, if you don't do it in 5-10 minutes at least, you lost the lead. So
yeah,
the world is moving a lot faster.
100%.
And see it all the time. No one has the attention span evermore. They want. They want fast response right away.
Fucking TikTok.
Yeah. So and that brings to the point. Even if you don't know the answer, just text them like, "Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yep.
I'll get it." Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
They want to know you're working. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they do. And we used to joke around, like, if it was like 5:01, you had to call an agent or something, you're like, yep, they're not going to answer right now. But I think, I think a lot of what you guys are talking about there goes to, what you guys are doing at this age, because I think a lot of agents, as they're in the business longer, they're more established, the successful ones have systems in place, so even if it's not them responding, they're able to, the client isn't like waiting around. But the ones that are just like, I'm gonna do this at my pace or whatever, it pisses people off. What do you guys dislike most about real estate?
I know. People not responding to me. I can't stand that. But I mean, it's just part.
Yeah.
It's part of the job.
Now, are we talking the client, or are we talking?
Yeah, when you're calling leads, like you just keep following up. I actually got a buyer the other day because I had followed up with this guy for 2 months, and I would just out of random, I would just call him out of nowhere, just like call. But I was always on it, and we didn't get to discussing this, but one of the things that when I was getting started, I wish I would have just make a spreadsheet, put the name, the contact info, and where they're at in their process, and then just keep building it, and then keep track of all the touch points where you're trying to contact them and make sure it's consistent.
So with that said, there's so much technology that agents have available to them, right? Most of them have the cookie cutter website that they get from their brokerage. They usually have the email marketing system built in. They usually have a CRM built in, and there's other tools as well. What are you guys using of all the stuff that's available to you?
Yeah, so I think at Keller Williams, since they're such a big brokerage, they have a lot more things to offer. Like we have KW Command, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and I'm sure you guys have something similar to that you use. But that's definitely the thing I use most. It helps keep track of all your clients, which ones you have to call on which days and those type of things. And you can organize kind of how he was talking about with the spreadsheet, like which people are ready to buy now. Some people might be a year out, and you're just keeping in touch to make sure they're keeping on track with their finances and everything like that. So that's definitely helpful. The MLS as well, because a lot of the emails I send out are searches for people that are looking for houses, and they can reply back. So I think that's probably the two largest things that I use day to day.
Are you guys using the email thing too? Like the email system?
I can touch, like, I actually don't really use smart plans. When I had Command, I had the opportunity to use them. I didn't really like it because after the third touch, the situation has completely changed, and you have to abandon the smart plan because every single lead is different and responds differently.
Sure.
I mean, I do a weekly email through Substack where I give out gift cards, or I'm giving a market update, or shouting out like a listing of the month, etc. And then also social media is huge as well. I mean, it's all about getting the touch points in, right? In Millionaire Real Estate Agent, it's like, okay, get them, do the 8 touch plan, and then do 33 or 34 touches a year.
Yeah.
If you get on social media, it's like you got 260 touches a year. You want to make sure that you're posting every day and they're seeing you.
Yeah. How's social media working for you?
It's been great. I have been getting leads from it. I only have 620 followers right now. I started about 2.5 months ago, and then it's been growing very quickly. And honestly, it's fun, and it's a great way to show my personality and just be authentic with the people that I'm going to be working with.
Yeah. How are you getting those leads? Is it people starting conversations with you, or you doing the interacting and starting the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, they just actually message me pretty much. Like, they just say, hey, a life event happened, baby on the way, just got married, etc. I know a lot of real estate agents, but you're young, you're hardworking, and I think you might have a savvy way to help us get into our first property. I was like, yeah, I'd love to help. Let's set up a call.
Cool. How much time are you spending on the phone of all of your prospecting?
Like calling people and that kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, just cold calling, follow-ups. Is most of your stuff on the phone, or?
Yeah, it definitely is. Sometimes email if people prefer that, or if I'm talking to mortgage lenders or something. But besides that, I would say actual like call time and texting and that kind of thing, at least 2 hours a day consistently. Even if it's the same clients and I'm talking to 10 people in one day, it'll be following back or being the middleman, trying to negotiate stuff or that type of thing. So having my phone is definitely like a pivotal point in this business, because without it, everyone else is on their phone all day. If you're not texting or calling, I'm not really sure what you're doing. So.
Yeah. Okay. For both of you, are you 100% all in on real estate now, or do you have a backup plan? Or are you at that point where it's like you burn the boats and you have to make it work?
So one thing I said, this is really what I wanted to do because I was not very fond of my last job at all. I said when I did this job, even if I hate real estate when I get into it full time, that is my decision to make my career and make myself out of this. So, obviously, like he said, there are things that are definitely not pleasant about it. People not replying, people standing you up, all those type of things. But I have told myself, whether it's in commercial, I've also In residential, I've also explored in commercial because there's a division in our office that does that. Just keeping my options open, but definitely sticking with residential for now and, seeing where it takes me.
Cool.
I'm still full on real estate. I mean, I'm taking classes at Westchester University. I'm technically still a full-time student. So, I'll probably get an associate's degree. But I absolutely prioritize real estate. I'm working in the office till I get done with classes at 9 a.m. and I try to work until at least 6 p.m. every single day. So the ratio between, working in real estate and school is 9-1, pretty much.
Yep. Okay. So if there was a movie made about your life in real estate, who would play you?
Oh, jeez.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yeah.
huh?
That's a very good question. I've been told I look like Michael Cera, so maybe it would have to
I
be
could see that, actually.
So I don't know. Definitely wouldn't be, some type of action actor or something like that because my life is not that interesting. But
All right. What are some perceptions about the business that you had going in that you found either true or not to be the case?
This is kind of like a perception that everyone else sees that I was kind of already accustomed to. I knew it wasn't. People think that this is just like a regular job and you're on a salary. It's not that at all. It's completely commission based. At least for me and you too, Manny.
It's volunteer work to get to the settlement table.
Exactly. And money in real estate is always at least 90 days out. And a lot of people don't understand that. So they see you putting in all this time. And you're like, oh, he's probably making so much money. No, you haven't been paid yet.
Yeah.
We got 3 more months before we get that check.
Good.
yeah, I was just going to say it's the same exact way. I was actually visiting my girlfriend yesterday at her college, and I was talking with her and one of her friends. And she was telling her friend about how I'm in real estate, and she was like, oh, do you make a lot of money? Which is a thing a lot of people ask me around my age when I tell them I'm in real estate. They assume that realtors just make a ton of money magically. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, it takes a while to get started up. Right now, if you want me to be honest, no, I'm not. Yeah. But, it's really about the time you put into it. You can sell 100 homes or you can sell 10.
Yeah. So we just did a podcast last week. We're releasing that one this week. You guys might actually want to check that out. So this lady, she works in New Hope, one-woman show. Been in the business 3 years. This year she is, at this point in the year right now, she's about 80 million in sales. Wow. And she's going to be, by the end of the year, probably about 200 million or 200 million plus in sales in 3 years.
She's residential?
She kind of does a little bit of everything. So she deals with new construction, a lot of luxury stuff, but she's just a total killer.
Wow.
And it's impressive because you see some agents that, they can only, I don't know how she does the volume she does by herself, but it's crazy. But the one thing that she was saying that it is not about the money for her. I think she likes the challenge. She has this vision. She wants to pull that off, and she just goes at it every day. I also have another client who talked about how the agents who are that the paycheck is such a thing for them that they're so married to the paycheck and not being successful for the client as much. They want to be successful for the client, but that paycheck is just that's their number one focus. And it's not to say that doesn't matter, but how do you guys react to what I just said? And then how do you manage to stay focused in serving your clients well when you do need the money at some point, right?
Right.
Yeah, I would say definitely that was a bit of a struggle to come to terms with when I went from this to getting a paycheck every week at my last job because, I'm not used to living off of nothing basically. So I put, most of my money away into investments and then had a set amount that is in my savings just to pay bills month to month until I'm getting paid from real estate. But basically just budgeting right now. And besides that, I have to remind myself I have to do a good job in this because, I don't have a choice otherwise. And the way I do a good job is doing a good job for my clients. So, always being of service, doing a lot of stuff I don't want to do either today or sometime this week, I have to install a dehumidifier on one of my listings. It just is what it is. But, going above and beyond for those people, it'll make you really be appreciated.
I kind of switched the perspective, because it even makes more financial sense. You always have to value the relationship over the transaction itself. Because the way I look at it is I need to do an amazing job for my clients today because they have kids, they have friends, they have family. I want their business too. And I'm not going to get that if I value the transaction over the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you both do? Real estate is a bitch sometimes, and you got to walk away from it and like do something for yourself, or what do you guys do on a regular basis to kind of keep your sanity in this business?
I would say it depends. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of hobbies at the moment just because I'm really focused on work mainly. But besides that, I would say I try to go to the gym as much as I can. I can tell he does too. But going to the gym, I think if you have something that stresses you out, going to the gym will just take that out because, exerting yourself. And it also just helps with the self-improvement side of that, trying to stay healthy and, be the best version of yourself that you can.
Cool.
I completely agree with him. I mean, I actually do really like what I do right now. I love real estate. I love the game.
Yeah.
But I would say go on a run. I don't even run a lot. It's just like a mile in the evening, just to kind of like.
Yeah.
I actually had to start doing that again.
Yeah.
I was going to the gym and I added that because it was like, I just need that time to think.
Yeah. Our business and what we're in, I mean, like we're working in the real estate, different aspect of it, but I mean, I think the schedule is a lot the same. Like, always got to be ready to go. And for me, I have to, I think the gym is a necessity because you can't be out of shape and operate the way you need to operate. The always be ready to go when I'm out of shape, it's awful.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. And it's very hard to leave the gym pissed off.
Yeah.
So it's, you get the endorphins going and all that, and it's like you can go in pissed off, but it's usually not the case when you leave.
It's like when you go into the gym, someone cuts you off in traffic, you're like, oh, just so angry. And then when you leave and someone cuts you off in traffic, you're like, it's all right. It happens all the time. It's just so much more calm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What, if you had to pick a price point you'd like, realistically, in the next year, do you have like a goal price point you'd like to get to in the next year or two?
And salary, you mean?
No, production?
No, and then where, like a price point that you're working in. Like,
Yeah.
Because you're going to do the same amount of work for a $200,000 listing, or not that much as $200,000 anymore, versus $1 million listing.
Yeah.
You're going to do the same amount of work. So do you have a aspirational price point that you'd like to get to in the next year or two?
You can answer that one first.
It's more like really a client, actually. I want to focus on investors, and that's actually kind of a lower price point. Mm-hmm. But I know that if I can master that skill set and I can provide more value than any other agent, that will be an endless pool for me to kind of pick from.
It's actually a good strategy.
I'm going to have to agree with that one as well. I'm just going to steal his idea, but I wouldn't say I have a specific price point. I would say, right around just medium home price range. I think it was $425 last time I checked, just average house. I'm not going for a specific type of like, I want to sell just only mansions or whatever. I've heard of agents that only sell houses that are over a certain price point, which I think, in my opinion, is a little bit ridiculous. Maybe it's just from my standpoint starting out, but I'll take whatever I can get. So I think the quality of client is what I would be striving for in the future, especially right now working with mostly for sale by owners. Very difficult type of person to work with.
Yeah.
So,
but you're cutting your teeth right now, and I think that's one of the reasons that that I wanted to have you on, because I saw that it's like, a lot of agents poo-poo business, that obviously, dealing with FSBOs is not ideal.
Yeah.
It's nothing against them as people or potential clients. It's just the reality of it, because they have a certain mindset that because they wanted to be a FSBO in the first place. So it's hard, but the fact that you're willing to take, you're not turning down business right now. There was, you ever see the 50 Cent movie, the Get Rich or Die Trying?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So he was like, I'll I'll take coins. If somebody wants, if a crackhead wants to pay me in coins, like I'll take it. And it's you might not have any deals right now if you weren't willing to do what you guys are doing right now. So, all right, let's get into where the hell did costumes come from?
I stole this one from my brother. I just asked if I could borrow it, and he was like, yeah. He used it over the weekend, and I just pulled it out of the dryer.
Cool.
Well, Starlight here has served me well for many years, actually. I think I was on a date one time, and we ended up in Target, and it was Halloween, and we had a party coming up, so I was just like, all right, get the unicorn. That was like 3 years ago. And then I wore it to school, and then, it came in handy at parties, and I'll wear it to a few more parties, and here we are on a podcast now, so it's been great.
Starlight.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we're coming. I got a few more questions before we close it out. So, Manny, best advice you could give to a seller right now in today's market?
A seller right now, I would say, well, an obvious answer would be listen to your agent, but because they know a lot more than I think a lot of sellers know themselves. But besides that, I would say to a seller right now, like, we are not in the same market we were 2 years ago, so I wouldn't expect or have them expect way too much or set their standards too high for how their house is going to sell or what the feedback and interest is going to be, because we're, I think, at least in my opinion, and you can vouch for me, moving away from a time where houses are selling in 2 or 3 days. So a lot of people get anxious after maybe a week or two if their house doesn't have like floods of showings coming through it or something like that. And I have to explain to them that it's not entirely my fault, you know what I mean? That
just mostly, no, I'm kidding.
that it's not entirely realistic right now. I can't control who comes through the house. As long as we market it and price it correctly, the amount of people that come through are going to reflect the people in the market that are in the market for your type of home.
Okay, what would you say to a seller right now?
I would just make sure to understand that the market is slowing down and that even I would say price is a big concern right now. This is a very price sensitive market. I think that if you're not seeing a ton of showings come in within 2 weeks and you have no offers, you're priced too high.
Okay. 2 weeks you give it.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys haven't been in the business that long to see the seasonality as much as it goes. I mean, maybe a little bit. How much do you think that slowdown is the time of year versus the market actually doing a major adjustment?
Yeah, so that's one thing I've actually, that's one of the objections we hear a lot in classes I've taken. Of course, a lot more people are less willing to sell houses during Christmas time, Thanksgiving, that kind of thing. So it definitely does slow down, overall, if you look at the market versus springtime when things are opening up, everyone's ready to clean out, move, whatever. But one thing I've heard is that, in the US, about 3 to 4 million houses are sold on average every year. And especially us being agents starting out individual or just starting out on a team, maybe sell 10 houses a year isn't going to make a difference in that market. So as long as you're actually putting the same consistent work in month to month, it shouldn't be slowing down for you very much at all.
I would say the same thing. I haven't experienced any. I know this isn't the most ideal market to enter in on. I think that's a good thing. I'd rather jump into the deep end, learn how to swim, so to speak. I've really only experienced an acceleration in my business. I just started getting a ton of deals under contract. I'm working with a ton of buyers right now. I have a few sellers coming up in the future as well. So it's really I've just been experiencing the compound effect of all of my actions that I did at the beginning of my career.
Yeah. Okay, since you mentioned you're dealing with a lot of buyers right now, let's talk about buyers for a second. So buyers have had a rough go at it the past handful of years, low inventory and affordability issues. If you give one piece of advice to a buyer right now, what would it be?
Well, first of all, you need to set expectations. You need to have that initial meeting because I understand that they have all this concern, but right from the get-go, I go and I just set a meeting and I sit down with them and we talk strategy and we talk inventory and what it's actually like to purchase a home in this market right now.
Okay.
But if I could give one piece of advice to buyers right now, it would be like, number one, I always like to mention state grants, and we like to explore opportunities that can save them money. We like to explore live-in flips where they can get a cheaper house, fix it up, and then capture the equity gain in it. But as far as advice goes from a buyer, I would say listen to your agent, and move
Which can
quickly.
be hard sometimes.
Move quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I agree with the way you do that. Do you like have an actual consultation? Because I know a lot of agents are just like, a buyer calls and they're like, hey, let's go see a house right away. And they don't do that sit down. How do you handle it?
Yeah, so it depends. I definitely would like to have an actual official meeting if I can. I've only had a few of those in the course of all my buyers. Sometimes it's over the phone and I explain how the process goes and some questions that may arise. But for the most part, I do like to at least tell them certain important things that might happen along the way that they can expect. Obviously, no transaction is seamless like we mentioned earlier. So if something happens, maybe with an inspection or something, I don't want them to freak out. So obviously I'm failing my way to learn some of these things, but over time, it's just things that I learned from maybe messing up or doing something wrong that I can put into my presentation later that will make me prepared. So that way in the future, once I have everything down pat, all of my buyers are completely satisfied and as few bumps in the road as possible.
Cool. And we ask every one of our guests at the end to leave us with a positive message to the world.
I would say, and it might sound a little bit cliche, but I think, no matter what you're doing, you have to set a goal and actually set yourself to it and believe that you can do it. Otherwise, you're never going to achieve it. Like if I were like, in 10 years, if I wanted to make $1 million, that would be great. But if I say like that, it sounds like I already believe that I'm never going to do that. So if I'm thinking to myself, in 10 years, I'm going to make $1 million, that's a statement. Like you have to believe what you want to do in order to actually achieve it.
How about you?
I think that if you're trying your best and you're doing all the right things, you're going to the gym every day, and you're reading, and you found something that you love doing, and you try hard every day, I think you're just be patient, and you'll have what you want before you know it.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great.
Happy Halloween!